All right. We did it. We're live. Thank you, John.
Yes.
I will celebrate the fact that you've got the live intro situation down like in perpetuity. I will be happy about that forever.
It's just there's a slight timing thing that I got to figure out. Like I need to figure out which direction to go. Is it go live first and then the button, or is it? Because right now I'm hitting the button and then go live.
It looks good.
All right. Well, I'll stick to my guns then.
Yeah, stick to what's working. No need to change. All right. So good morning, GitOpsians. Yeah, a couple quick announcements. What are the couple quick announcements? We just said, I already forgot. My kid has COVID and I have had no sleep. So there you go. I feel bad for them. It's the first time. Like they've gotten this far and never had it. And now they're the only one sick. So I still feel like because the other three of us have gotten it. But yeah, so right. So ArgoCon North America, co-located with KubeCon, that's coming up in a little over a month now. It's November 12th through 15th.
Yep.
I talked before. I was on the program committee for that. The schedule is live. It's exciting. Everything looks great. Other co-located events with KubeCon North America is OpenShift Commons, which I've never been invited to, so I still don't know what that's like. But Johnny, I think, are you going to be there?
I am going to be there. Yep. So Michael St. Jean he's a former member of my team. He's going to be there doing some stuff, and I'm going to be helping him out, kind of supporting him. But I'll be at the ArgoCon booth for the Red Hat booth at ArgoCon on the 12th, I think. And then, I'll be around KubeCon the rest of the week. So just a lot like last year, I'll just be floating around, getting as much swag as I possibly can. So
swag was good last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not going this year. We talked about this. It's my kid's birthday, is on the 14th, and I'm just not abandoning my child on their 10th birthday too. So
yeah.
Right. So that's I think it for our announcements. So I think we just our guest has been sitting here patiently waiting for his introduction. Our guest today is going to say this very American, and then he's going to fix it. Luigi Zuccarelli, who is from the OpenShift OC Mirror team, and you do other things too. So just tell us about yourself real quick.
Yeah, cool. So well, first of all, thanks for the invitation and your interest in OC Mirror. I mean, this is a tool that we've been working on now for the last 2 years or so. As you know, or if you don't know, OC Mirror is a tool that we use for bulk copying platform images, release images, day 2 type operators, additional images and Helm charts to basically get people, first of all, for installing OpenShift and then implementing day 2 type operators in their cluster. So I'm the team lead. We're 3 engineers. We're trying to get more people on board, but I think getting staff at this point in time in Red Hat's a bit difficult, but anyway. Yeah. Yes, it's been...
OC Mirror is an open source project, right?
Yeah. And we've been absolutely, you're 100% right, Hilary. We've been encouraging people to contribute. And I think, if we get more people to contribute, it makes it even, better. And this is what we've tried to do because we've had a lot of feedback, especially with the V2, and I'll speak a bit more about the V2 later. I've got a little slide deck that I've put together. I don't want to bore everyone with a long-winded slide deck, but just to tell you what we've been doing. There's been a lot of problems with V1. There's a lot of hiccups. We have a lot of bugs and bug fixes. So we decided, no, let's try and get this to be an enterprise-grade tool for Red Hat. I'm not saying it's not, but there are,
it was quirky, right? There
are a lot of quirks. That's it. Yeah.
It's written in Golang, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Golang has changed a lot in the last few years. So I think I know on my project, I work on Azure Red Hat OpenShift, right? I'm a team lead there. In my project, the team, obviously it's been around for more than 2 years, but we're looking at some of our code stuff, and it's like, oh, if we do this following current Golang conventions, we've got this huge stylistic difference. Or if we want to use generics over here, we need to go redo all of this other stuff over here. So I think at a certain point you see with projects that you really want to have staying power, especially projects that are working in languages that are evolving, which is all of them. You need to eventually like kind of re-architect a little bit, or like take a moment and be like, all right, what are we really doing that makes this, like you said, kind of a sustainable enterprise grade project? But I mean, despite the hiccups, I know I personally, like, one of the things I see on Reddit a lot, in the OpenShift Reddit, is people saying, how do I like really capture my cluster state so that I can, you know, either make a clone of it, or so that I can at least know what it looked like. And I've told people probably 5 or 6 times, like, hey, have you seen OC Mirror? And like the immediate response is, oh, I think this does exactly what I need. Every single time. I've never had anybody be like, nah, that's not going to work.
Oh, good. So you're a great advocate. That's good to know. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. It's written in Golang, and so what we did was we had a request from a couple of solution architects. We had a massive RFE that was filed, saying that especially with guys out in the field doing sort of work with enclaves and government type environments where they need they're working fully air gapped, and it's a really complex type environment. And they said, look, we really need this type of support because it's gaining momentum, especially with the telcos, edge cases where they have very restricted environments, and they've got like small servers right on the edge where they're running a single node OpenShift, and they need all the images really. And so we took that advantage and said, okay, let's relook at the V1, and that's how V2 was sort of started. So I mean, I was fortunate enough to attend. I don't know if you guys know the DO 500 course. I don't know what it's called now. I don't know.
Way back in the day. Yeah.
The best practices, DevOps best practices, and things like that.
That was back around the what was the big Red Hat project that they would do, where they'd bring the companies in, right?
Yeah.
They were teaching DevOps and Agile and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, that's it. Innovation Labs.
Innovation Labs, yes. Yeah.
So I was fortunate enough to attend that course in person, and we basically, as a team, we applied all the principles that we did: the DDD, domain-driven design, event storming, and we put together a really cool plan on how to do this thing, and make it as resilient as possible. Because I think at the end of the day, we want a tool that's resilient, robust, easy to use, and that will work. And unfortunately, we have how can I say this? You have massive from all sides. The first thing is internet connection.
Yeah.
I mean, that thing. Oh, my goodness, when you're trying to mirror in, like, I mean, we have some clients out there that are mirroring like 200-300 gigs.
Oh yeah.
Plus more.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's a company that have mirrored the whole catalog, a couple of releases, and it takes them 50 hours. I couldn't believe it. I said, who does this?
If you look back to before OC Mirror, right, the way that we had to do it back in the day, it was you had to use OC ADM just to pull down the OpenShift images, and that was what, 20 gigs ish, whatever.
Yeah.
And then whatever operators you wanted, then you had to use OPM to try and pull those down. But it didn't like what's the word I'm looking for? So if you had multiple copies of the same image, it would still pull down every single image that was like of the same copy, right? So it wouldn't page them, right? And so then you end up with like you might be downloading the Rel 8 image 15 times for 15 different operators, and then you're pulling down every image that the operator needs, and so your disk size is just like just ballooning out because it was crazy. Yeah.
So absolutely, yeah.
I was like, it's really interesting. Well, because the interesting is like it's the perspective, like the why people do this. It's so obvious, and yet also a little bit like so, like anti-cattle, not pets, right?
Yeah.
So I need these things to be an exact clone, right? This needs to be an exact clone of this, right? And that is not, these are open source packages. They're involving projects. Like, it's not necessarily always like continually possible to consistently get an exact clone. If you go, 2 months down the line and try to recreate the same cluster from scratch, you may not be able to achieve that. And the reason for needing an exact clone makes a ton of sense.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many really valid reasons to do it, but it's also not intuitive to cloud native, right? Which is it's not about that. Like, we're not about that life that way. So it's kind of funny because then you end up, like you said, 8 copies of Rel 8 downloaded. Like, I get why they need that, especially, you said highly, people with really highly, regulated environments and so forth. That's really the exact same customer base that we have in the managed OpenShift on Azure. Team, like, very highly regulated customers, very, very, very strict. We have an equivalency to a way of doing an air gap with a, private cluster, like really specific networking, all this other stuff. And so, and then inevitably the customers are like, okay, well, I need to be able to test this thing. But before I can touch my production cluster, I need to spin up another cluster, and it needs to be an exact match. And that was actually literally the exact time that it prompted me to reach out to you. Was I was being asked, is there anything that we can give customers to help them create that exact clone? And I was like, will OC Mirror do everything that they need? And I never actually found out if they used it or not. But that was literally my literal next Slack message was, hey, OC Mirror team.
Yeah. No, well, that's great. No, I mean, that's what we're trying to do now. Mm-hmm. So as I was saying, like, you have all these restrictions on networks. So you on 20 gigs download, and boom, the network goes, or something happens, and now you've got to start from scratch again. So those were one of the bigger issues that were coming through. And then obviously with the sort of aggressive updating of Z streams. So exactly what you were saying, Hilliary, that I would have something mirrored today, and I'm taking the head of each. Let's just say I've got ACM operator and the cluster logging operator, and by the end of the week they have released a Z stream. I'm going to get the head of that, and it's changed. Mm-hmm. And so you have that problem. Plus, we've got the interface on the cluster itself that OLM, the operator lifecycle manager, could be running a different version. It runs a different version to what we used in OC Mirror, and you get this mismatch, and you can't deploy your operators because the bundle versions are not aligned. And then you get this enclave problem where you have, honestly, there are clients, especially in the sort of highly secret government type of environments, where they're burning their mirrored images to Blu-ray.
Damn right they are. 4 gigs.
Yeah.
Still doing it.
And then they distribute the Blu-rays, and this is how they're doing their. Look, it's exceptionally secure because they actually make sure that all the file integrity, SHAs, and everything on the Blu-ray gets checked before it even starts up. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole part, and it's really good. So there's another problem that we have to encounter, and then the big one is. That with each, like I think in the day 2 type operators, I stand to be corrected the exact number, but it's about 190 to 200 odd operators inside there that you can choose. I'm just talking about the Red Hat,
the layered products
operator index, not the certified, not the community, just that. Each team has its own way of doing versions, and OLM has this thing of, if you're deploying on a cluster, you have to have your default channel set for an operator. And you would get a company that said, well, I don't want the default channel. I want version. So let's say the default channel is stable, and the head of that stable channel is, the bundle is 1.0.0. And he said, no, we went and did a whole pre-production staging of 0.9, which was in stable 0.9, a complete different channel. And now they want to mirror that. And when you mirror it, OLM doesn't like it because you haven't got 1.00 and your default channel being stable. So you've got to change all that around and make sure that that is set up properly so the clients can use it. And then you've got to make sure that the OLM on the cluster is updated properly with the latest version of the Red Hat catalog operator that you've uploaded. And then the other thing that OC Mirror tries to do, and we're working closely with the OLM team to get this sorted out, is rebuilding the catalog.
Mm-hmm.
So, you got the 190 or 200 odd operators, and we're talking about day two operators. The platform releases are those are straightforward. You have to have them, otherwise you can't install OpenShift. So that's sort of sealed, done. But the day two type operators is like, they say, I only want ACM, cluster login, low-key, or whatever, a pile of operators. And so what we have to do is filter those operators out of the catalog, existing catalog, rebuild the catalog. So basically, in a way, you actually, you have to make sure that the filtered config that you have works and is correctly filtered according to what your image set config. You have a config file that you use on OC Mirror, that you filter the right bundle, the right channel, and then you rebuild the catalog. So we take the original Red Hat operator catalog and we rebuild it just with those filters. And as a result, there's been a lot of problems with the way that what happens is we do, there's an OPM binary inside the catalog. We take that binary and we redo the cache. This is a requirement from OLM. You have to rebuild the cache. And the reason is because when you actually deploy a Red Hat operator onto your cluster, and if there's no cache, the cluster starts trying to rebuild the cache, and it causes timeouts, and you could actually just brick your cluster, actually. So you have to have that cache in place so that when the OPM binary serves the filtered catalog, it starts up quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So they reduce all the sort of clutter in the what they call a declarative config that comes with each operator. So all these things add up and make it really, really difficult for us, And I mean, please, I'm not complaining. It's been a lot of fun. I've learned, the stuff that we've learned has been sort of really cool. And we're working towards making it more robust, more stable. We want to take, like, for example, the thinking is now past version 2. So just to let you know that we have version 2 is tech preview.
And awesome, by the way. It's awesome.
Oh, have you played with it?
Dude, I've a lot lately. Yeah, it's very nice. Yeah, V1. I was like, I'm never going to use this. Like, it worked, but it wasn't like consistent. So I was just like, this is okay. But V2, it's dope.
Cool. That's great. Thanks for that feedback, because what we did was we said, okay, let's see how we can actually sort of build a cache, keep the cache up to date. So if you do have an internet all fall down, you basically start off where the last image was mirrored, and then you build on that. So that was quite good, because it makes it easier for clients now. They don't have to use so much bandwidth. I mean, obviously, initially you will use bandwidth, but once they've got everything on disk, now they can go ahead and distribute to your enclaves and your air-gapped environments. How they would like to do it, and then also what we also done is improve the concurrency. So, I mean, Golang's really cool with Go routines and concurrency. So we've also the other thing is we've also sort of standardized on the container images library. So basically, we are aligned now with Scopio, with Podman, and with Builder. So it's the same engine basically for all those tooling. So we're keeping the tooling across all the sort of standard Red Hat offerings the same. Well, we're trying our best to keep it all the same, you know.
So doing that, does that prevent, like, because if like back in the day when you try and pull down the operator catalog, right? There was a point before OC Mirror V1 came out where if you're using Scopio, you basically had to say, give me every image. Like you had to do like a -- all.
Yes,
like
yes,
or whatever the equivalent was to get everything. Otherwise, it would only pull like the head, and it wouldn't actually get the rest of the images that it needed. And then when the catalog came up, it says, oh, hey, I'm actually supposed to have like 3 or 4 images, you know, down the chain here that you don't have. So is that with using the same tooling? Is that what solves that problem? Okay.
100% now. So basically, you do have the choice.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually allow. So we have it set default for operators, day 2 type operators. So you get all the architectures.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, you'll be downloading a manifest list, and the manifest list is going to contain, if it's available, it depends on the creators. They might only do ARM and AMD 64.
Right.
That's it. But so if they're all there, we'll download all of them. So the PPC 64LE and S390X as well. It'll download all of them. So yes, it's bulky now. So the next phase, and that's sort of in our pipeline, is then to only push to the remote registry the actual operators and images that you need for the operating system. So in other words, at the moment, we're going to be giving you all 4.
All of it, yeah.
If they're there. If otherwise, if it's only ARM or only AMD, that's what you're going to get. But so what we're looking at is what they call sparse manifest. So in other words, I can say, oh, I just want AMD 64 because I'm running my OpenShift on AMD 64 architecture, and that I'm
never going to use ARM, so why would I care, right? So just
don't. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And the same with S390 and PPC. That's the IBM very specifics. But so that's another issue. So you're right though. Using that same engine helps with making sure that we download. You get the minus all as default.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No. Go. You're gonna.
Yeah. No. I'm just. It's all positive, to be honest with you. Like my coworker Michele, he started using it. He was like, it's way better. Like V2 is way better. So I started kicking the tires with it. And one thing I really like as well is like the output that you get, like as it's going through and it's scraping the operators and it's pulling down the images and stuff like that. It says, hey, look, I'm at like 141 of 209 or whatever it is, right? And so you've actually got this nice output stepping through each one of the operators as it's going through. And then when it's done, it dumps out the configs that you can apply to the cluster, like the image content digest something, and then the image content tag something, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Tags. I was like, praise Jesus, this is awesome. Like it's dope, because back in the day you had to do the ICSP yourself, and it was like this thing sucked.
Sorry, I was saying it's a very GitOpsy thing, right?
Yes.
That you get this thing that can exactly manage your exact state. And that's why I wanted this on this episode. This is like,
it's
a GitOps tool. This is a great GitOps tool or GitOps, like a tool you can use in your GitOps that we haven't discussed before.
Yeah. So actually, having said that, I'm actually very keen to talk about that, because there are a couple of very big clients that take OC Mirror with Podman, and they actually put it into a container for their CI/CD pipelines. And then what they do, they put everything as code. So the image set config, all the parameters you need, they put in a Tecton or whatever pipelines that they're running. And so one of the requirements as well was that I think in the previous version there was this notion of continue on error, and you had to. So what we do now is if there is so for releases, if there's an error, we fail fast, because actually if you can't download all the images that you need to deploy OpenShift, that's it. You can't work. You can't get OpenShift cluster up and running. Whereas with the day 2 type operators, we keep a log, and we just dump everything into an error log, and then we make sure that if the parent, if let's just say you've got an operator, and the operator consists of a controller, some bundles, and some other stuff. If let's just say one of the bundles failed to mirror, then we won't mirror the operator itself. The whole day 2 type operator, we won't mirror that. So we keep a tab of what's happening, and we put it in log. And this helps the guys with, especially running this stuff on CI/CD pipelines. Then they just go have a look and see, oh, did this thing exit with an error? If it did exit with an error, what are the errors that we can pull down? And if it was a critical error, then they go and have a look. So basically, we had to try our best to gear it to running in a GitOps type environment in a pipeline, So and I think so far we've got some good feedback about that. I mean, obviously, we are working with 1 or 2 other companies they've actually created support exceptions. So they're giving us valuable feedback on, where we can improve and what we can do, which is great,
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. It really is. And like the error that you're talking about, like I saw it firsthand the other day where I was pulling down, I think it was like the GitOps operator, and I think SSO was one of the dependencies within that. And then one of the images within the SSO operator was having problems. And so it was like, oh, is this a network issue on my part, or is there something going on with the catalog? And I think there might have been something going on with the catalog or whatever. I reran it again. It was like, no, good to go now. And I pulled everything down, and it was awesome. Yeah. The other thing I like about the new stuff is like where you've got the graph config inside the actual image content config, where you can say, hey, pull down the update graph. So now like if you're pulling stuff in from, if you're going up or down, right, and you pull it in, now you can actually go and look and be like, okay, well, here's my path to get, maybe I'm trying to go from 14 to 15 or 15 to 17, whatever. Here's my path now, right? And that, like, yes, because that's like, it shouldn't, back in the day, 100 years ago, that was a separate task, right? Like, it's like, okay, you had to pull all that stuff in, and you had to
you had to create the Docker file and pull in all the graph image. Yeah, and actually that was, so that's the other thing that's been really cool, is that a lot of the technical account managers and the solution architects have reached out to us, which I'm really grateful for, because you don't know really where you are, because there's no telemetry on this stuff. I wish we had more telemetry and to get better feedback. But anyway, they've given us good feedback as well. And speaking about that, they like, especially on one of the TAMs came back to me and said, listen, that OSIS, the OpenShift update service, is very important. He said, if you don't have that in place, you can't upgrade your platform. For a first-time install, you might not need it, but when you want to upgrade, that thing's really important, because it works together with the cluster version operator, I think, and there's a whole. I mean, that's a bit beyond my pay grade, but
well, because you can't, it's not always linear, right? To go through each stream, and so sometimes you have to jump and get to a certain point before you can move on to especially in earlier releases of OpenShift. Like now, it's a lot better, but like it hasn't always just been a straight line to go from A to B. Like you had to do some hurdling before, and so having the graph there and knowing like, okay, hey, look, if I'm on 4.15.1. and maybe I'm in the fast channel or something like that, and I want to go to 4.15.7, I need to get 4 first, and then I can go to 7. But it's just because of the way that the channels are and stuff like that. So yes, I completely agree with that statement.
I was actually just going to talk about the channels too, because that's the number one thing that, you've got the stable channel, the fast channel, the EUS channel, and the candidate channel, right? And so there's this process that OpenShift goes through, and actually you can see something if you look at Cincinnati, like the update graph, right? There's a concept of blocked edges. This is something that I've had to go find a PR for me on this, where we will put in a risk on an upgrade edge as well. And so it's like, okay, well, if you're in this situation and you're looking at these edges, you might not have a good upgrade path, but if you change channels, you might actually have a good upgrade path where whatever that problem was has been resolved. And so now you can go from here to here and not have to step through a version where there is a known issue. And there's like, usually these issues have corner cases. They're like, okay, in this like kind of strange scenario, then this could get stuck and require like this other thing over here to have to be rebooted for the upgrade to finish. They're usually situations like that where they're highly specific and you're going to kind of, you like, know if you're at risk of it, but you can bypass the whole thing. Or if you are somebody who has that corner case, then you can be like, all right, what's going on in the fast channel. All these things have OpenShift bugs that are public. So you can go see, you can go like click on it, go see where it's expecting to land. And if it's landed, check the errata and stuff like that to see, and then just switch to the fast channel. Or if it's a dev cluster, you can switch to the candidate channel. Yeah. Don't do this on the managed OpenShift versions, please. Just do it on the self-managed versions. But you can switch across channels to get the versions of OpenShift that have the fixes you're working on, or have the features you want to play with.
Yeah, and real quick, just on the channel thing, and then we can move on. But like fast eventually becomes stable. So just
it's about a week. Yeah, it's about 1 week. Yeah.
It's a terrible, if you're stuck on names, fast is really, it's really just short for stable, right? Even though it's one letter shorter, but it's really, everything that's in fast will eventually be in stable. It's not like fast is like a candidate channel or something like that, or like an early release or something. It's not an alpha. It's actually, that code gets promoted into the stable channel. So it's, you can use that with confidence. It's fully supported. Yeah.
That's another issue that so within that Cincinnati data, there is a thing called the conditional edges, and OC Mirror doesn't take that into account. So we have a problem when you're moving from like two versions. So if you go 4.12 to 4.14, there's a problem. It doesn't pick them up, and so we've had to, for now, is actually adding a sort of warning in the CLI, in the command as well as in our documentation to say, listen, if you are going to be using, it's in the EUS channel basically, and it could affect the stable as well. I think I'm not sure. I don't know. There's something we have to just verify, but we've had to put that in because it will. So, like if you're going let's just say 4.12 EUS. And you're going to 4.14 EUS, there could be a 4.13.36 that you need to jump to first. As you've mentioned, Hilliary, there could be a risk. And so you need to actually apply that before going to 4.14. And so there are problems. So talking about that is, so what we want to do now is we've got, our vision is to have, so at the moment, OC Mirror will make an attempt to do the upgrading for release, because we have Cincinnati built in. There's a Cincinnati set of files and lookups in OC Mirror. We want to remove that, and we want to remove the complex filtering for catalogs out of OC Mirror. So in other words, OC Mirror is going to become a dumb copy tool. And all it does is do bulk copying according to a list, but then we'll have two introspection tools, one for releases that will really be as close to what, there's the web console where you can go look at your upgrades and mimic that. In fact, I've done two POCs. I'm how can I say this? I'm an adventurous type of programmer. So I've been, in the last 2 years, been playing around with Rust. And I just love that. It's just a phenomenal language, and I'm like hooked you know, I can't get enough of it, type of thing. But anyway, so I've built these 2 prototypes to just see. I mean, they're not official, but just to see for our future roadmap that we can actually separate this out of OC Mirror, have a separation of concern. OC Mirror becomes this immensely reliable, robust copy tool, and you have your requirements up front where you'll do your configuration. It automatically generates a image set config for you for the release, and the image set config for your day 2 type operators, and then you merge these 2 and you give it to OC Mirror, and boom, that's it. And that's our thinking. And we've actually asked a lot of the sort of clients out there, and they do this, especially the big guys, you know, where they've got this big GitOps type. They do a pre-staging where they go and test everything and make sure it works. They've got the right version of ACM, the right version of cluster logger. They've got this one, that one. And their devs have interfaced and integrated, and the applications are running smoothly. Then they take everything, lock it down. That's where they want the specific versions. And then they put it all in production, and then just make sure that you don't do any upgrades in production unless it's this senior guy that's actually saying, okay, we can move now to another version.
Yeah.
And so that's where everything's moving to. So they want to be able to be flexible in sort of a QA pre-staging type environment, but then completely rigid in production. And so that's why we want to do this separation of concerns. So that's like our future roadmap, really.
Well, and it goes back to kind of like what Hilliary was saying when we first started too, right? Like you get that config file, and it's got all of your you've got your releases, you know. So say if you've got 4.14.3.4, whatever, your operators, your Helm charts, whatever it is, right? All your extra images, and now you've got a bill of materials, and so you got that bill of materials that goes into like your dev environment. You said, hey, look, here's what we tested against. Here's the output. It's approved. We moved it up to production. Here's the output. Here's the approval. Right here. This should work. High levels of confidence that this is going to work based off of our feedback from testing in the lower environments. Because I've worked in those restricted environments before, and you can't easily go back. And so trying to get that updated image, you could be talking, it could be an hour. It could be a day. It could be, you might have to call somebody in to burn a DVD to bring that DVD in so that we can burn
exactly.
it. It's seriously highly controlled, and it's not always easy to recover from a whoopsie, you know. And so having something that works that you can move across and then verify before you move into production.
I was going to say, you were living a little bit rent free in my head. I was also going to talk about the bill of materials, right? Because there's a disaster recovery story here too. Mm-hmm. When you're a product or a service or whatever, and you're providing, you know, you have customers. One thing that we are doing these days, right, is we are giving them a bill of materials. So if you're, you know, some sort of, you know, service provider for a highly regulated customer, you need to be giving them a bill of materials, which means that you need to have a disaster recovery plan that can exactly reinstate everything as defined in that bill of materials. Because if you don't, it's very complicated, and it's a very difficult story. And that's one of the things why I like OC Mirror. I like the direction where it's going as well, especially for that, is because that takes the difficulty out of that, because there's such a degree to which you can't control the industry. But if you're reliant on industry tools, like you need to have a good disaster recovery story. You need to have a good business continuity plan, and having that ability to like, okay, here is this thing, and we can restore. Like, you can't necessarily always, like, OC Mirror doesn't take care of, like, it's not going to take care of like the databases and all that other stuff, right? But it's going to take care of the exact version of Postgres with the exact version of Redis or whatever, and so that gets you that by itself is huge. That's 90% of the hard problem, is being able to restore to an exact version. Yeah,
that's the struggle. And like, the one thing I like about this, especially the way it is now, right? And V1 was fine, right? It did what it was supposed to do. It was fine. It wasn't my favorite. I didn't really, it didn't work the way I had expected, and so I was a little tainted. But like using V2, like I love it. I think I'm being completely, honest with you.
Thank
I think
you for
it's
that.
awesome.
We appreciate the good feedback.
And you're talking about like you're doing all this hard work, right? But for me as a consumer of it, it's not hard. I go in, I define the things that I want to get, I run a command, I get the output that I need, and I go use those files inside of, you know what I mean? Like the process for me coming into a cold and just using it, just reading the docs and then moving along, it's super easy. And that's how it should have been 100 years ago when we were doing this, instead of you have to run all these like asynchronous commands and do it all crazy. Because right now this is the way it should have been. And I'm glad that you guys are doing this because it is awesome.
Well, better late than never.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
True. First world problems. I'm just bitching about how good
it is. Yeah. So the whole GitOps thing is really, it's becoming more and more important. And then also there's a request as well for the new SigStore type signatures, and that's also going to impact OC Mirror, where we will be using, where you can attach we're talking about SBOM. You can attach a sort of software bill of materials, a signature,
like
to
a
verify
cosign
that the SBOM is right, a signature for the actual operator that you're wanting to deploy, and a signature for the SBOM. And then we are going to be using the referrals so that you can actually update your manifest with these referrals, and you'll have like a sort of child, grandchild, parent type structure where you can attach this to an existing manifest, and then you have your signatures, your SBOMs, everything in there, and it makes life so much easier, because now you don't have to reach out to the internet like we have to do now, especially in the enclave. That becomes a big problem, because now we can only, at this point in time, we only support the platform release signature. So you download that, and then at the end, in 4.17, we've just finished that work now, is you can actually, it generates a config map for you to use, and you can apply that into your cluster, for the release signatures. But you have to reach out to a specific API, download the signature, base 64 encoded, build your config map, or all the whole thing that goes with it. Now, if we go this way, each operator will have its own signature. So that'll be for releases, for operators, day 2 type operators, for additional images, Helm charts, and it's all intact. So you just basically mirror all that, and then you can go verify the signatures as you see fit, which is really cool. Now you don't have to go reach out to the internet. Also, obviously, when you need internet access when you're doing your mirror to disk. And actually, that's another thing that we try and encourage people, is to make use of that cache. So yeah, it is a 2-step operation, because you have to do your mirror to disk first and then disk to mirror. But what's happening there is that you replenishing your cache. Your cache is always up to date. It's there. It'll save you time for future uploads and that type of thing. But then also you'll have everything local. So when you move now to your enclaves, it's a matter of just tarring everything, move the tar file over, SFTP, Blu-ray, whatever the thing is that you need to do, and you've got it all there. And then you can go ahead and do the mirror to disk to mirror, and push them into, especially with like the government guys, they've got like a hub and spoke type environment inside the enclave.
Yeah. So
it's even like it's a 3-tier type of system, So then all this type of thing does help them. We don't have to reach out. You make sure that you have all your stuff beforehand, and then you move on to your enclaves, which is much better, much easier to.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like, so sorry, like the idea fairy is like running circles in my head right now, but like with the security stuff that you're just talking about with the SBOMs and signatures and stuff like that, right? It's to me thinking about like every time there's been something that's happened to some piece of software and it goes out on the internet and they say, hey, X has been compromised, blah, 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 make sure your system doesn't have it. It's one thing to say, oh yeah, mine doesn't have it. But it's another thing to be able to prove like, hey, here's everything that's in our clusters. Here's that piece of material. Like it's if you look, it doesn't even match. It comes from, we have this signature and this completely different. Yeah. So we're solid. So it's one thing to say, yeah, we're good to go. And then to be able to prove that you're good to go without ever having to like go in and doing a ton of like deep investigation. Right. And just, it's literally all kind of like packaged together, like you were saying. Then the other thing I was thinking about is with your integrations with GitOps. Have y'all like talked to the GitOps team about maybe putting like an action in, like maybe having like a OC mirror app and then having an action where you can go in and then you can just say, hey, look, it's all, you have your application set up to have all the pointers and you just like go click the little hamburger menu and then sync or mirror or whatever. And it just kind of does it through the application. So that way, I don't know, I was like, that'd be
that's a brilliant idea. Actually, one of the engineers on our team has been playing around with that on Git actions, GitHub actions.
So the GitHub Actions is like a workflow. That's like a pipeline thing, but I can't remember what it's called in Argo. I think it's an action.
It's a plugin.
It might be a plugin action or an action plugin.
Yeah,
it might be something like that.
Yeah, so it's the sync. So the sync in Argo, you basically, as soon as you make a change, obviously it depends on how you've set it up. But it has the notion of an event listener, and then you create a PR, or you can say, as soon as the PR merges, go.
Start it all.
And then it just goes. Yeah, that's
there's a way. There's a thing that you can build in. I think it's probably a plugin, but what it does is like it's so say if you have somebody that has access to that application in Argo, so maybe they're a security person, right? Maybe they're responsible for content. I don't know, whatever their role was in the environment, you give them through RBAC. Access to that plugin, and then they could go into the application, and in the little menu of the application, instead of clicking sync, they could click mirror or whatever it's called, and then they could click that, and it would just run the mirror command and then pull everything down, or it'd be a cron. I don't know. I was just thinking it'd be kind of cool to have something in there, because then you'd have the graphic, or you'd have the UI showing you all the fancy yellow and green and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, these are all cool things. These are things that eventually you want to get to where everything is basically just clicking a button and you forget about it and everything gets deployed for you. That's what we want to get to. But it's going to take a lot of work and time and that type of thing. But
your blood, sweat, and tears for our simplicity, right?
Oh yeah, but I think, but it is, talking about the signature stuff is that, I would like to see a place where the actual container will not even deploy if you haven't signed it. So in other words, it does a signature verification on the SHA or something. I've played around with this and I've got it working, but on a binary file that I then create a SHA and deploy it in a container. But it will not execute unless that thing's signed. So you create a SHA-256 PEM key pair, whatever, you store it, and then on your cluster, if that doesn't match, you don't even actually start up the container. It just says, sorry, you're not. This is not verified.
That's awesome.
Can't work.
Oh, and so like using the admission controller thingy in Kubernetes. I like to say thingy is my word there.
Yeah. The web admission controller type thing.
That stuff is pretty powerful. I was playing with that for the book I was writing. There's a little bit on that in there. And that stuff's great. I love doing it off of a signature. I wish that had occurred to me when I was doing my cybersecurity chapter. That's a stroke of brilliance. Oh well.
Well, and the cool part about that is that like that's a ACS feature, right? Like inside of ACS, like you can get it to where it won't even. I think it's like it won't even deploy. It won't allow the image to deploy. if it doesn't have a cosine signature associated to it. Like if you've set it all up, like it'll block it, which is, it's pretty awesome. So when you're going through and you're running it through like a pipeline and you have ACS integrated, it'll actually block it before it ever gets to that running state. So that way you're not pushing something that's not approved out into your production environment. So having that without having to have another tool, that'd be kind of dope.
Yeah, because that was also a requirement that the guys were asking us, one of the solution architects working for government environment, saying what they do is they take all the signatures and verify them from your mirror to disk. Then they create your archives, and then they deploy them in their enclaves. They untar, and they do another signature verification there in the enclave before they actually push it to the remote registries. So if we're going this new way with the SIG store stuff, doing referrals in the manifests and all that type of thing, I think we'll have a great solution where you'll have wherever you are in your pipeline, you can say, you know what, I want to do a quick signature verification on these operators. You have a list, and boom, you go.
Yeah, you get all the provenance with it. Yeah, that's nice.
That's another thing that I wanted to specify is that, which was also a big problem that we encountered on V1 was the auto pruning, where we'd have a couple of clients come to us and say, listen, we've bricked our cluster, we can't move. So what they did was they created an image set config, and so you'd have operator A and B. They go, they deploy it, everything's cool, they're running, everything's happy, the cluster's working, they've managed to remotely deploy operator A and B. Then they go change the image set config, and they put in operator C, but they leave out operator A and B. So they create a new image set config and just leave out operator A and B and just have C, but they keep the same storage config.
Comes up behind them.
So it goes and deletes A, it goes and deletes B, and it deploys C for you. And so what we've done now is saying, okay, we've disabled that auto pruning completely in V2. We have a notion of a delete image set config. So in other words, you set up your image set config. It's virtually the same as your image set config. It just has a couple of keywords that are different, and then you can tell it, I want to delete this, and this. So obviously you need to know what you have to delete. That's something we also, in our introspection tooling, we'll have a way to be able to help you say, oh, I've got operator A now on version 3. I want operator A on version 2 to be deleted now, type of thing. And this is where we want to go. But at the moment, so you have to be intentional with your deleting. And we try to avoid this bricking of a cluster situation,
Yeah, I've been around people getting bit by that before. Yeah, that's
with the auto prune.
Yeah. That's so as soon as you brought it up, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it sucks. No, that's awesome. I like that. That's awesome. And the thing about people using it too, right? It's like, at some point you have to read the manual, right? You have to go read the docs. You have to go find a blog. You have to do some research, right? Use the help menu, whatever it is, because if you're just trying to wing it, you're playing with fire, especially when you're talking about content and deployments of content, and it can just get nasty.
No, absolutely.
I was going to say we have about 5 minutes left for the stream time. We haven't gotten to your slides yet. If you still want to share your slides, we can do that. If we don't need them, we don't need them. That's fine.
I don't know. I mean, I think we've spoken about everything. So yeah, it's okay.
That's good. Yes. Slides are great. Not slides is also great. I think everybody followed along. We didn't get a lot of questions. Not a chatty audience this week.
No.
It should be that way. This is cool. I'm excited about where OC Mirror is going. How do we follow the story? Is the GitHub the best place to follow the story? What's the
I would say forum OC Mirror. on Slack. That's the open channel where SREs, the SAs, and everyone can contact us. So let me see if I can.
So that's like for the Red Hatters in the audience.
Yeah. So I'm not familiar with how to put something in the chat here.
Well, we can do it. So is that a Slack channel that we have that's open for everybody, like even like the general public, or is that just for Red Hat?
It's a Red Hat internal. So
okay, yeah.
But I suppose we could set something up for. We'd have to talk to, because we have a partner, one for the partner, but it's mainly because we did a lot of work with IBM for file-based catalogs, because IBM they create their catalogs on disk, and then we've got to pick them up and convert them into sort of a manifest and on the blobs and mirror them to a remote registry. So we worked. There was a partner channel, but I don't know if it's open. I think this is still all internal.
Yeah, it's all internal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you guys on OpenShift users out in like the Kubernetes Slack?
No, we don't have a channel there.
Okay.
No, we don't.
All right. So GitHub it is. All right. I posted the GitHub earlier. It's there for folks who didn't notice. If you're curious about what's happening in OCMIR, go check out the GitHub repository. Give it a star. And yeah, it is an Apache 2.0 license. It's another Red Hat open source tool. I think do we have a contributing guide? Take a look, play around, do the things.
Yeah. So we would love people to contribute. I added a capital O. It should have been.
It's okay. I got you.
Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah. So for the Red Hatters, forum OCMIR on internal Slack. For the non-Red Hatters, GitHub for you. Sorry. Sorry.
Unfortunate. Yeah.
Or feel free to email Hilliary and I, and we'll
keep
the questions to Luigi.
Yes. Yeah. We'll forward your comments and suggestions on happily any day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I can also contact me directly. I mean, should I add my email here?
Yeah. We'll toss your email into the little meet chat. Gosh. We'll toss your email Oh man, it's been one of those days already. Yeah. Okay, here we go. So if you want to reach Luigi, all right, Johnny's got it. The email is there. Johnny's email is always showing next to his name because he's real professional like that. But yeah, questions, comments, concerns. If you're at Red Hat, that's easy. If you're not at Red Hat, reach out to one of us via email. We'll be very happy for the engagement. And yeah, that brings us to about time. Luigi, thank you so much for coming on, for talking about OCMIR, for telling us what's happening and what's coming next. Any closing thoughts before we tell Johnny to end the stream?
No, I think thank you so much for the invite and for the feedback. Actually, I think that was really good to hear. And we want more and more traction. We want more and more companies to use it and give us more feedback. So having said that, OCMIR V2 is still tech preview in 4.17. We're busy working hard now to get it GA'd in 4.18. Please don't hold me to that. Plans change.
Oh yeah.
And but we're doing our best. So because honestly, trying to handle two versions is a bit intense.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And so we want to, as soon as we get a GA, then we'll do a deprecation notice for V1, and then also just people to give us suggestions about. I made mention of our tooling, separation of concerns, having a introspection tool for releases, introspection tool for operators, upgrade paths, and all that type of thing. Getting people to come and join in and contribute. We've got a couple of POCs out there. Give us some ideas.
So
Love it.
I do have a quick question. I'm sorry, Hilliary. Is there any plan to make the mirror plugin as part of the OC binary completely instead of having to download it separately and do something like have where when you download the OC client or even OpenShift install, whatever, like it's just part of it?
Yeah, no, I think that they will always be separate, John, because of the workloads team. They are responsible for the OC binary tool, and there's a ton of work that they have.
Bet, yeah.
And so to merge the two, in fact, the whole drive was to remove OC admin completely out of the OC tooling now, and let OC Mirror do everything. And we're in conversation with the workloads team. They are responsible for the OC command line tool. Eventually, we'll be removing OC admin, the Mirror, and for release and catalogs, and try and replicate everything in there, obviously in the V2.
Gotcha.
Okay,
V1. So they're trying to slim down the OC client, and then you're trying to basically spin up the mirror client.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, so I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think me personally, I would like it to be one tool, but there's just too much. It's just
it makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah. It's never easy.
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Well, okay. So closing thoughts. OC Mirror and GitOps, cool. OC Mirror for disaster recovery, also very cool. OC Mirror, very cool. Thank you so much for your time, Luigi.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was really great meeting you and chatting to you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, until 2 weeks from now, I think we're going to be talking about observability with guests to be determined. I'll remind the audience, as per usual, choose your tech debt wisely, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Cheers, guys.